Halloween, everybody. My name is Enigma, and today I really wanted to talk about one of my favorite shows ever. It's called Quantum Leap. For those of you unaware, Quantum Leap is a show from 1989, ran until about 1993, starring Scott Bakula as Dr. Sam Beckett. Quantum Leap is a time travel show where every episode, Sam Beckett will become a different person and help to correct whatever went wrong in their life. This usually involves somebody in their friend or family dying, or the person he leapt into is supposed to die. Either way, it's mostly about saving lives here, most of the time. There's a few exceptions, like when he leaps into his younger self to win a basketball game. Because clearly that's the most important thing you need to do. Or there's also an episode where he has to win a pageant as a 16-year-old girl.
Oh, boy.
So there's also that. That was certainly important. Although to be fair, in that episode he also does stop let's just say a predator. I don't know how else to put that. So yeah. He does stop a predator in that episode, so that is at least more important than winning a basketball game. Either way, not the point. Sorry if this gets a little disjointed at points, by the way. I did not write a script for this. I attempted to do so, I'll admit. I really tried. But I cannot follow a script to save my life, and it's just doesn't work for me. I do really well at just yapping the fuck out of a topic when I don't have a script in front of me. But all that's beside the point. We don't need to get into all that, because what you're here for is definitely the title of this video, which, yes, it is true. This is an episode of Quantum Leap where the literal devil from the Bible shows up and Sam has to kind of fight him. You'll see what I mean. Now, to give you some more insight to Quantum Leap before we jump into the episode in question, we follow at least two characters every episode. There's two recurring characters that we always will have. Occasionally there's some other ones that show up here and there, but for the most part, technically three, I suppose, if you count the computer, but it doesn't really chime in, it just kind of exists, but it's there. And it does help them. So we have Sam, of course, as I already mentioned, Dr. Sam Beckett, played by Scott Bakula, who invented the time machine and is leaping through time, as I mentioned. Then we have Al Calavici, portrayed by Dean Stockwell, may he rest in peace, and he is a hologram from Sam's time, who helps him to figure out what he needs to do to get his job done and get to the next leap. Because he's hoping one of these days that he'll finally be able to go back to his own time by doing all these leapings. And lastly, the only other thing we really need to know about this episode is about Ziggy, our wonderful computer companion. Ziggy appears as a little item known as a hand link. Depending on which season you are on, she might look a little different. I say she because I feel like she makes the most sense. However, there's a bit of a history with Ziggy's pronouns that I just wanted to talk about for a minute. I promise this won't take up a long time. So I could talk about Quantum Leap for hours if I wanted to. But I won't do that today. Not to you guys, not right now. If you want to see that later, though, let me know. Regardless of that, so Ziggy, in the first few seasons, and even in this episode actually too, is referred to by he/him pronouns. I believe this is up until about season 4, and then in about the beginning of season 4, so we see Ziggy has a feminine voice, and we also start hearing the characters refer to Ziggy as a her, a she, her pronouns. And then the newest iteration, because there was a reboot of this show in 2022, and in that show, from what I remember, they call Ziggy rather, they them, by they them pronouns, or its pronouns sometimes. It's. I don't know, maybe Ziggy's just a trans femme icon. Good for her, or good for them. Good for whatever they want to be called. So now we've introduced the characters, and you know more or less what we're getting into. Let's start talking about the episode. Sorry if this took a long time to get to. We open up the episode with Sam inside of a home. He just leapt into a really old looking home. He's got a book open next to him. He's looking into the book and he sees, oh my god, this says 1879. And I guess for some reason he thinks that he's in the year 1879, which would be impossible, as per the rules of Quantum Leap. You see, one other thing I forgot to mention is Sam cannot leap anywhere beyond his date of birth. So the day he was actually born. However, this is broken in one of the later episodes, but this is, however, a rule that's broken later on in one of the episodes near the end of the series. But they do kind of BS their way through explaining that as being because he leapt into somebody else who was related to him, so it's some kind of weird blood relation exception thing. It doesn't make sense, but I'm not going to try to explain it on this episode because we're not talking about that episode. But maybe we will in a future time. Who knows? Finishes panicking about this. He goes to go upstairs, where he gets jump scared by two people, and falls down the stairs and fucking dies. Roll the credits. Nah, I'm just playing. He of course survives. He's fine. He's just a little knocked about, and stuff. So it's around this time we learn that his name is Joshua Ray. And the two people who jump scared him are his wife, Mary, or I think it's actually his fiance. They're not married yet, that's right. His fiance, Mary, and their friend, helper, whatever he is a kid named Stevie, who just kind of hangs around, I guess, and is helping them make their little haunted house. Or sorry, they call it a spook house. Ooh. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to cover this one as well, is because it actually takes place on Halloween in 1964. That's the date he's leapt into Mr. Joshua Ray here. Now Joshua is a horror novelist, as Al put it.
You're kind of a second-rate H.P. Lovecraft,
whatever that means. Which I guess means he must write some Eldritch Horror. Too bad we don't get to see any of that though, because actually I really do love me some Eldritch Horror, not gonna lie. Regardless of all that. But Sam brushes off his fall and he starts to get a little acclimated to what's going on in this place, So anyway, Sam is talking to Mary in the kitchen when they're prepping some pumpkins and some other things for the spook house. Oh yeah, there's also one more thing I wanted to point out that just a little fun fact for the show. So there's almost always a scene where Sam sees his reflection in the mirror and sees a different person. And of course we have that scene here when Sam gets up after brushing off his fall and Stevie is leaving. He goes out the door to go see Stevie off, right? And he looks left and sees the mirror there, yeah, and there's himself. Well, except it's Joshua Ray in the mirror, not Sam. That's how it always goes. It's always going to be the person he leapt into is in the mirror, and not Sam, because that's who the world sees as well. However, this doesn't mean that Sam is possessing the person. You see, it's explained in season 3, episode 12, titled 8.5 Months. I'm just going to probably put the clip right here and let you guys see that nonsense.
So then we're just saying that Billie Jean is back in the waiting room.
Yeah.
And then I'm here in 1955, right?
Yeah, right. She's there, you're here, yeah.
And it's just the illusion of her physical aura that everybody's seeing.
That's right. They see the illusion of her physical aura.
Not her body.
No, not her body. No.
Okay.
Anyways, the fun fact I wanted to get to was that the way they did the effect here for the mirror effects is what they do is it's not a mirror, it's actually a window. So they actually have the actor or actress who is portraying the person that Sam has become this in every episode stands behind the window, and Scott Bakula looks into the other side, therefore giving off the effect of looking into a mirror and seeing a different person. I just thought that was a cool effect, and I thought it was a cool little fun fact to throw in. Back to the topic at hand. Josh, or rather Sam, I should say. Sam talks to Mary, Josh's fiance, and they have a little brief discussion about killing a man, which is how we find out that Josh is actually a horror novelist. We don't have time to get too much into that because we start hearing a bunch of noises in the upstairs. Mary talks about the fact that there was a witch, or a supposed witch at least, who died in this house many, many years ago.
Maybe you could burn him at the stake like Alice What's-Her-Name, who used to live here before she moved to Salem.
It seems sometimes she suggests that she might haunt the property or something, or curse the property in some way. Especially considering she actually didn't die on the property. That was my mistake. She actually died later when she moved to Salem. Which is probably the worst thing you could do as a witch. But regardless of all that, he hears some noises upstairs, but it turns out to just be Tully, the local handyman who's helping fix up some windows. They have a brief discussion, him and Sam, and there's this really cryptic line that Tully says about the devil. I'll play that right now.
You know what they say, don't you?
What do they say? Tully?
Them that dance with the devil are bound to get scorched.
This conversation over is cut short, though, when a goat who was nearby knocks over the ladder that Tully was on. This causes Tully to fall and die upon impact. Police, of course, show up, and Sam is trying to tell them that a goat caused this. And they're like, oh, there's no goats here, you silly bitch. Why would a goat kill a man? So, of course, they think, or they seem to think at least, that Sam, or rather Joshua, is at fault for this. But as Sam himself would tell you,
It was a goat.
I just really love how he delivers that line. After the questioning, Al finally shows up. He usually wears some pretty crazy outfits. This time, he's just wearing a blue tux with the only weird thing about it is this weird little emblem thing he has on his chest. I don't know what the fuck it's supposed to be. Probably some kind of future jewelry. Ooh. It wouldn't be the first time. There's a fucking episode where he wears a neon star just on his lapel for no real reason, just because, I guess. Anyways, Al's finally here, and he gives him some information, some of which Sam already knows, but he also tells him that Mary is fated to die tonight. Dun dun dun. Al keeps having trouble with Ziggy trying to get more information, but he only has so much for some reason. It seems Ziggy's on the fritz, and he can't quite understand what's going on here, you know? He also very awkwardly points out a snake that's just kinda in their living room, I guess, next to the stairwell for some reason. It's a black mamba, which is a very, very poisonous snake, as I'll tell you.
Somebody made a mistake, and a man is dead.
Do you know what kind of snake that is?
What?
That's a black mamba. That's one of the deadliest snakes.
Al, I want you to run a check on Ziggy.
After the snake is introduced, Mary walks in and sees Sam talking to himself because, of course, Al's a hologram, and only Sam can see him or hear him. Except for when the show decides that that's not the case, and oh my god, children can see him for Some reason. I'm sure.
Ziggy says that kids under the age of 5 exist in a natural alpha state, and that's how come she could see me.
That's why she can see you. But how can she see me?
Animals and kids.
What did she
it's
say
great.
to Girl Scouts?
They're pure of heart. You know you can't lie to a kid. They see right through you. They see the real you.
I don't know. There's also an adult man who can see him in a later episode where they have a Christmas special, basically. Maybe I'll cover that for Christmas. Who knows? If this does well, perhaps. Anyways, Sam takes him and Al to the office, to Joshua's office, so that they can talk freely without having to make Mary worry about anything. Now we're in the same office. He finds
Now listen to this. A second later, the goat tugged at the rag.
the note already inside
toppled off the
it,
ladder and
typed
crashed to the ground and never got up
scribes
again.
Tilly's
Wasn't here
death.
before.
This, of course, freaks him
There's
out.
someone with a very sick sense
And
of humor wandering around.
Al begins to suspect that maybe Mary might be behind this somehow. Because, of course, this letter didn't type itself, right? Right? A local friend of theirs named Dorothy comes by to drop off some candlesticks to help with the spook house. When Dorothy gets there, they tell her of Tully's unfortunate death. And she's of course saddened by his death. She had warned him not to do these kind of things anymore because he's getting kind of old. It's just not, worth it to do that kind of stuff. On this, Mary goes outside to grab the silver candlesticks from Dorothy's vehicle. And Dorothy excuses herself to go make some tea in the kitchen. Mary comes back in not long after, and Sam and her hear a scream from the kitchen. The snake got out and bit Dorothy, killing her somehow instantaneously, which is not how black mambas work. For reference, a black mamba snake bite usually takes about 7 to 15 hours to kill a person. But this is probably supposed to be another clue that things are not quite going right here.
Sam, there's something hinky going on around here.
Yes, exactly that. What the fuck does that word mean, by the way? What the fuck is with this guy's vocab sometimes? Anyways, they get questioned again, and this time off screen. We don't get to see the cops or anything. We only really got to see the sheriff the last time anyways. And he is an important person later. He'll be back in this episode in a little bit. But once they get back home, Al and Sam go up into the office, and guess what? There's another letter, this time about Dorothy. And Al begins going off again about how it must be Mary that's doing this. Sam, of course, gets upset, saying that she couldn't possibly be like some kind of psychotic killer or anything like that. So, unfortunately, though, Mary is within earshot, and they have a small screaming match. One that ends with a skull flying off of a shelf and shattering into a wall, seemingly from nowhere. After it flies across the room, Mary collapses and begins to have a seizure, as we learn that she's epileptic. Sam is able to call a doctor and get her to the hospital, but she's unfortunately knocked unconscious by the time that she's in the hospital, and remains unconscious for most of the episode going forward until about the end here. But while at the hospital with her, Sam tries to reason that apparently her epilepsy gave her psychic abilities, because I'm sure that's a thing that can happen. Just listen to his reasoning here. It's fucking bonkers.
Psychokinesis is very real, Al. The brain works on a chemoelectrical level. Epilepsy is a sort of crossing of the wires, so that maybe when her neurons short-circuited, maybe it stimulated her psychokinetic energy.
This man has several degrees in scientific fields of study. I don't even know what else to say about that. We're just gonna keep going. So, God, This show can be so unserious sometimes, I swear. So he decides to go to her home to investigate. And it's got a spooky address.
966 Salem Avenue.
Dun dun dun. In fact, it gets even spookier once he gets to it, as the 9 flips over to a 6, creating a 666. Pretty spooky, huh, folks? So Sam is inside her house now, and he discovers that the people who have been murdered are all deacons. So there seems to be a clear thing tying all of the victims together so far, especially considering Mary is also a deacon, it would seem. So it's starting to make sense as to why she might die tonight. However, right as he's discovering this, the sheriff pops in. Of course, very suspicious that Joshua's just kind of poking around the house, but at the same time, why the fuck is the sheriff here? Was he also going to come here to investigate? Is he just mad that Sam got here first? That's what it kind of feels like. But of course, this leads Sam to start to suspect that the sheriff himself could be the killer that they're looking for. On his way back home, Sam sees some car lights behind him, thinking it might be the sheriff following him. Then, Cat appears in his car out of nowhere, and suddenly, on the road, there's a strange animal.
It was a goat.
Oh, right, yes, Sam was a goat, you're right. So he swerves away from this goat to avoid hitting it, of course. Only to then see a man in a scarecrow costume also in the road, and he has to swerve to avoid him as well. This turns out to be Stevie, the same kid that was helping them earlier. He, for some reason, was dressed as a scarecrow. Who knows why? It's never really explained why. He just kind of was. I don't know. I just work here. Don't look at me. Anyway, Sam ends up crashing into the trees. When Stevie comes up to see him, he's like, "Oh my god, are you okay?" and everything. And Sam tells him a little bit about what exactly went down.
I jerked the wheel to avoid the goat. And then, when I saw you, I overreacted and the cat jumped in my face. And then I tried to stay on the road, but the car, I don't know, it was just like in Christine, it had a mind of its own, and I crashed.
But Stevie has something to tell him too, as it seems there was no goat in the road, and that Joshua doesn't own a cat. So, where did these things come from, you may wonder? Now, back at home, so we see Sam in Joshua's office once again, and he gets kind of jump scared by Al, who kind of pops up out of nowhere and decides to just quote Tully the same exact line we heard earlier about dancing with the devil.
Them that dance with the devil are bound to get scorched. Al.
Which is odd, because Al wasn't there for that part. Suspicious. But regardless of that, Sam tries to call the station, but the sheriff seems to be missing. No one's seen him for a hot second. So he tries calling the hospital instead, where Mary's staying. And the nurse there tells him that apparently Mary is supposed to be getting picked up by the sheriff. And of course, Sam thinks that this must mean the sheriff is trying to enact his plan to kill Mary. He drives off, but he finds the sheriff's vehicle on the side of a road near where it's got the sheriff's body in it too. He's already dead. And nearby, once again, there's that strange animal again.
It was a goat.
Right, it's a goat. Of course it's a goat. He returns home now, after finding that body. And we see that the sheriff's truck is outside. When he gets inside, Mary's all alone at first. He tries to tell her of the sheriff's death, but then the sheriff is here, and he seems to be alive and well. Sam confronts him and grabs him, at which point we see him transform into Al. That's right, the Al we've been following this whole time was actually the devil in disguise. And I'm not talking about the Elvis song. Although that would be a good topic, considering Sam also becomes Elvis in one of the episodes. But we're not talking about that, we're talking about the actual, literal devil who is here now in the shape of Al. This is revealed to us as he monologues a bit here.
Who are you?
Yin and yang, good and bad, God, the devil, in the flesh, so to speak.
But not before the real Al also shows up. In very suiting attire for Al. I'm not gonna lie, he's wearing this ugly green paisley shirt. I'll show a clip here. But it turns out the devil is here to stop Sam because of the fact that, as I said before, God is sort of like leaping around Sam to do all this good work, to try to make things right again that were going wrong.
Put an end to your meddling. Who gave you the right to go bungling around in time, putting right what I made wrong? Just trying to get home.
It seems that the devil also has been making things go wrong. Which does make sense because there is the whole evil leaper arc that happens later on in season 5. That's when we learn that there's some other leapers, or at least one other leaper, who appears to be working for the opposite side because her whole thing is that she's supposed to make things go wrong. Basically the antithesis of what Sam is. Then the devil begins to choke Sam, and Sam starts to choke him back, but things get a little weird as we start to kind of spin around a bit, as you'll see here. The devil continues to take on other forms: Tully, Dorothy, the sheriff, as well as a goat, of course. Eventually, they don't really they just kind of stop spinning, and Sam collapses, and then he seems to wake up, and we're at the beginning of the episode again. Mary and Stevie are at the bottom of the steps with him, and everything is just as it was when the episode began. It's just like the beginning of the episode, except Al is there too right now. And he says he had trouble reaching Sam for a while there. Sam explains that where he was, there were 2 of Al, and they were trying to kill him. He, of course, tells him this after making sure that he's real by putting his hand through Al to make sure that he is for sure a hologram. Al starts to tell him that you're here to save this guy named Tully, and Sam bolts up the stairs and pulls Tully through the window as he's about to fall, immediately saving his life, basically. According to Al, it seems this is the first time he's seen him in the sleep. So I guess we're supposed to believe that the whole devil thing was a dream, but I don't want to buy that. I choose to believe that it actually happened and it was some kind of weird alternative plane or something that the devil had him on. Because I'm just tired of the it was all a dream trope. Ooh, it's kind of boring, you know? Because there's so much cooler things that could have been happening. And I would much rather it be that, but that's the case. And rather than him just being like, oh, I had a weird dream. This time, of course, there is no goat. And so Tully's life is saved. Al's like, holy shit, what the fuck? And then Sam tells them about his little dream. He explains to Mary, oh yeah, in my dream, you threw a skull across the room with your mind, it would seem. And and he's like, it's a good thing it wasn't like kitchen knives or something. It's like a joke. Which is a reference to Carrie, by the way. You'll see why that's important in a second here. Because we get a second twist here when Stevie's mother comes to pick him up. As I don't think I've mentioned this earlier in this video, but Stevie is talked so many times about wanting to be a writer in this episode. Now, he really loved to get into horror writing, and he like looks up to Joshua Ray and all this stuff. And it's here that we learn that Stevie is short for Stephen King. Yes, that's Stephen King.
Wow, what a neat idea.
Hi, Mrs. King.
Hi, Mom. Stevie King.
Hey, Cujo.
This, of course, causes Sam to have the immediate realization of, holy shit, I just met Stephen King, and I think I inspired him to write Carrie, and possibly Christine, even though that was in the dream universe thing or whatever, and I don't know if Stevie remembers that. I don't know. I don't know how stuff works. I don't know. Either way, after immediately realizing that, Sam leaps away, and that's basically where the episode ends. There is a quick shot of because there always is that where he leaps into the next episode, but that's not really important for this episode. But yeah, that was episode season 3, episode 5, The Boogieman from Quantum Leap. I just thought it was something crazy to have a whole episode where we might have had it was a dream scenario, or maybe he was just in like some hell dimension BS torture plane or something that the devil made. It's hard to say. Tell me what you thought of this episode. Tell me if you want to see more about Quantum Leap, because there are some other episodes I could definitely cover, even if it's not for Halloween. But hopefully this comes out in time, because I really want this to air either on Halloween or before Halloween. If it comes out a little after, who cares? It's still Halloween. It's always Halloween. You cannot tell me otherwise. I'm just playing. But either way, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if there's other things you'd want to see from Quantum Leap. If you have an episode that you like, then you really want me to talk about it, maybe I will. Who knows? I think it would really be a good idea to talk about 8.5 Months, season 3, episode 12, where Sam becomes a pregnant woman. Because, I don't think I need to say any more. It's a freaking impreg Quantum Leap episode. Do I need to say more? Because he experiences pregnancy as a man. And I feel like that's something we probably should talk about. There's also the episode in season 5 where the Blood Moon, where he leaps into a guy who might be a vampire. So that's always fun. There's also an episode in season 2 where there's an actual canonical ghost that's in the whole episode. That might be another fun one to cover. Let me know if there's any of those you want to hear more about. Let me know if you just have another episode you really want to talk about. This was fun to do. Hopefully I'll do more of these. Hopefully this gets out in time. We'll see. I'm recording this like almost a week before Halloween. Really crunching it at that. So anyways, if you like this video, subscribe for more, hopefully. And I'll see you next time. Bye.